Hello, folks. Welcome to the Ken Matias Sports Podcast, episode 16. I have WHDH sports reporter, Channel 7 from Boston, Trey Daer. How are you, sir?
Good, Ken. Thank you, man. Glad to be here.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule. Obviously, you got some things going on, but like we just talked about off air.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Yeah, true. Like we just talked about off air, start with your career, how you broke into the industry, and describe maybe the pros and cons of being a sports reporter in the Boston market. Obviously, it's pretty top market in the country. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're pretty fortunate on my end. I've been doing this for about 16 years now. So I grew up in Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh, PA. Really never wanted to do much else as far back as I can remember. So it's been awesome. I've seen parts of the country that I never ever thought I would see. Living in Missouri, lived in Arkansas. I met my wife. We have two kids now.
No, that's
Moved to
awesome.
Milwaukee. I will never forget what it was like to walk into Lambeau Field the first time. Someone that's always wanted to do this. That was incredible. And then moving to Boston, been here for over 9.5 years now. Coming up on 10 years in October. Lots changed certainly with the landscape of media at that time. Lots changed at our station in that time, but we've done some incredible things, seen some phenomenal moments, and covered some great stories. Actually, I started October of 2014. The
Wow.
Patriots were just about halfway through their season. It may have been at that time. Obviously, they were playing 16 games. It might have been the eighth
Yeah.
game mark, literally. Um, a huge game out west. One of the first things I ever covered against San Diego at the time. Now they're obviously in LA,
LA. Yeah.
which was awesome. And we had the game on our air at that time. And it really felt like they were coming off a tough loss in Green Bay, which was their biggest game of the year. So then that game against San Diego kind of felt like they really had built something. There were bigger moments in the year. I'd say the biggest moment regular season was that game against Cincinnati. Whenever Andy Dalton had the Bengals 3-0, the Patriots were coming off that horrific game against
The
the Chiefs. And
KC. Yep.
at that point, I'm pretty sure if the timeline adds up, I knew I was going to Boston, and I was like, man, I really thought there was some shelf life left to this for the Patriots and Belichick and Brady. And I'm not saying I was putting them in the grave or anything like that, but I think at the time Brady was like 37, 38 years old. So
Hmm.
you're like, man, this could be it. They could be reaching the end of the line here. But maybe it'll be a playoff team, but not what it's going to be. So, anyways, they had a huge win against San Diego. Gronkowski was amazing. Edelman had a huge play in that game. I really can recall the moments. And they went on an incredible playoff run. Had the game against Baltimore, which is I would say the second best game I've ever seen in my time spent in New England. I mean, there were some incredible games. And they destroyed Indianapolis. We all know what happened in the fallout of that one. And then on to the Super Bowl, which was crazy time in the news world. This was February of 2015, January 2015. They'd intersected throughout in Arizona for the Super Bowl, and Boston got pounded with an epic snowstorm. I'm actually almost positive, at least in the city limits, they set the record for snowfall in a
Yeah.
24-hour period. And we're out, in Arizona. It's 79 degrees and sunny. And then it did rain middle of the week, but anyways, I digress. And then the night of the Super Bowl, another storm hit. So you had all these people in New England and really all the Northeast, like major media markets, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, et cetera, kind of blanketed by some snow. So that game ended up being, at the time, the most watched Super Bowl ever. It was just passed this year by the 49ers Chiefs. So it's been an awesome journey, man. Really blessed to be here. Thankful for the people that have given me the opportunity, and have learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, that's for sure. But more than anything else, I've had a lot of fun. So it's lived up to the hype.
Yeah, for sure. So in total, like between bouncing around different states and stuff and being in Boston, like how long have you been doing this? Since like your early 20s, mid 20s?
Yeah, I'm a lot closer to 40 now. Hell of a lot closer to 40 actually than my 20s. But yeah, it's weird. You start to process, and you're the young kid, right? Like I'd mentioned, I was in Joplin, very small town, and literally, there's Pittsburgh State, there's Missouri Southern. That's what locally about all we really had to do. Pitt State football is kind of a big deal. Not long after I left there, they'd won a national title. So a big deal, in the scope of things. It's not
Yeah.
a big deal. It's not a brand nationally, but to get 8,000 people for a Division II football game, that's something you never ever would hear of in this part of the country. I think they won the national title in like 2012, 2013. It's sometime around there. But anyways, those football players, some basketball, the ones that had redshirted or maybe taken a medical year, just a bit older, like literally they're my age. And that's, the focal point of our coverage. And you're not even a college town, just a small town. And these guys are my age. Then, in Arkansas, same thing. Ryan Mallett was a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Yeah.
I was only in Joppa for 1 year. And what I believe is the best 2-year run the University of Arkansas had ever put together was 2010, 2011. Mallett didn't quite live up to the Heisman hype, but man, they really put the program back on the radar. And then Tyler Wilson, who was a local kid, Mallett had connections in Northwest Arkansas, but not Tyler Wilson was like from Northwest Arkansas, just out about 50 miles from what campus was. They had a great year. They were winning awards, went to the Cotton Bowl, went to the Sugar Bowl, 21 wins in 2 years. And it looked like, they were going to be a top 5 program in the SEC moving forward, right behind the Alabamas, the Floridas, the Georgias. At that time, Arkansas was kind of next. And then Bobby Petrino wrecks his motorcycle. And for a couple days, that was the biggest sports story. And I was on vacation in Miami, and I woke up. It was, I think, April 2nd, April 3rd, whatever it was. And at the time, I was getting alerts on my phone. I was like, no way. This
Yeah.
has got to be an April Fool's thing. And wrecking his motorcycle. But life comes full circle, man. Now he's back at Arkansas, unbelievably enough. But yeah, right out of college, about 6 months to find a job. The journey for anybody that wants to do this was radically different. I hate to age myself, but now it's digital, and at that point we're talking the infancy of video. Forget streaming, like the video on the internet. We're like 2008, 2009. We're like 3-4 years away from a Netflix streaming. They're still pumping DVDs in the mail. So I remember going to the post office every day. I had these DVDs. And probably sent out between, I don't know, I feel like realistically it's probably like 30 or 40, but when I tell the story, it's more like 75 to 100 or something like that. But yeah, not many places willing to give me a chance. In a different time when news directors would have to put a DVD or VHS, even in some extremely rare cases, into a player, as opposed to just hitting a link is the way it's done now. So really, I've seen the media change, and man, it's changing so fast. I don't want to downgrade what we do in any way, but it's just different. It's a lot different. People are consuming content so differently now. It's so hard to get people's attention. It's nothing that in my opinion, I don't know if there's anything that we're doing on the local news, local sports end. I think our product's great, but man, people just have so many options between streaming and media and music and the ways they can get it. It's just ever evolving. It's everything's great one day, and then it feels like literally like months later, you're like, damn, we weren't ready for that kind of thing. So it could be a little extreme, but I hope you get the point.
No, I do. No, I appreciate it. I mean, every time I watch the news, my internship from Channel 5, I felt a greater like happiness. I'm like, I didn't want to leave Channel 5. Like, I didn't want it to end. I mean, working closely with like Bob Halloran, the likes of talking to like, all the Maria Stefanos, Ed Harding, Duke, great people to be around. So I'm not trying to make this about me, obviously, but I got a little taste of what the news sports industry is, and I'm like, this is like legit. Like, this is pretty cool. I mean, you
Yeah,
guys go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. It's pretty crazy. We do like about a 3.5, 4 minute sports cast, and again, I like the thirst isn't there. I think when I was a kid, or it's certainly before me, the Bob Lobel days, the Mike Lynch days, people
Yep.
set their clock around, hey, 11:18. What's Lynchy and Lobe? What do
Yep.
they have tonight? That's unfortunately the appetite isn't there for it yet. But how do we get people's attention? The things that I'm an old school kind of guy, even though
Hmm.
I'm still relatively young, I suppose. So I try to treat it like present people with something you assume they haven't seen yet today, because in a lot of ways now I think that's how I've always been. But I just feel within a newscast we have probably fewer sports fans, so we're
Hmm.
presenting more I guess more general information. So it's can you show them something viral, or if somebody's in the kitchen and not really paying attention, can you say something that gets their attention?
Yeah.
And you don't want to get into trouble either. And then, oh, by the way, we got producers that are devoting 4 or 5 hours
Hmm.
of their time and editors into a 4 minute sportscast. So it's crazy the amount of resources that can go into it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it was about maybe this time last year. I could be wrong on my timeline, but Maury Hirsch-Gordon, I mean, he became the sports director, obviously. I actually had a chance to meet him. He actually interviewed my dad one time. Actually, we were out and about, and my dad actually made a little news. But he seemed like a super duper nice guy from, his transition from 12 to 7. I didn't really get to see much of him on 7. You've been there quite a bit, time, obviously at 7. I think Chelsea McDonald's still there, right?
She's now gone. So we had some moving
Oh,
parts like
real?
that.
Oh, see, that's why I haven't watched. I mean, I remember she did a phenomenal job. Maury, the little I've seen him from obviously to 12 to 7, and I'm probably drawing a blank on somebody else because it's probably a while since I've seen you guys, like I said. So, is it a woman now too? Is there another woman on there?
Yeah, Marley Weird is with us. We're fortunate to work with some really good people. We got some, as I use the word resources that goes into a sportscast. Newsrooms are changing. There's not as many people as there used to be in really in the news department, but especially
Hmm.
in sports for a lot of places. But here it's extremely important to the people. The number one radio station in the country. I believe that 98.5 the Sports Hub. I think I heard
I
this
listen to
correctly
them
from
all the
somebody.
time.
Yeah, all the time. And man, and Felger he is unbelievable. He really
He
it feels like
is.
he drives the narrative in sports talk in Boston. So
Yeah.
kudos to him. But I think I heard they're the number one billing radio station in the country. So that just shows you that the audience is there, the appetite is there when people are in their cars or to a lesser extent in their homes. That's what people in our region, want to talk about. So I haven't I lived in many cities, right? I lived in 5 different places. So I guess I can't really compare it, but as I said, I've been fortunate enough to see the country. I think what we do, if you want to be a fan or you want to be a media member, I really do believe Boston is absolutely one of the best places in the country,
For
if
sure.
not the best, to do it. I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh with people who are very, very passionate, got a great history, almost positive that since the start of the Super Bowl in the mid 60s there, no city has more world titles than Pittsburgh in football, baseball, and hockey combined. Because we don't have a fourth team. So super passionate there, but man, here it's different. Philly, they're a great city,
Oh, I visited
beautiful,
there. Oh
beautiful city,
yeah. Philly.
absolutely an international city. Super passionate. It's really close, but I don't know if it's on the level of here. I'd say Boston, Philadelphia, probably Chicago third in that order, or
And
just
probably LA
incredible.
too.
So LA's great,
Yeah.
and they've got two of everything, right? And
Hmm.
wow, what a great place to live if you can afford it.
I
Southern
believe it.
California is incredible, but because of how incredible Southern California is, people don't really give a crap about what's if you're going to the beach, you're on your boat if you have one. You're in the mountains, skiing in the winter, which, if it's 70 degrees in December, I don't know why you'd be in the mountains, but it's just places like LA and in Miami, it's just too much to do.
So
I've
not
spent some
enough
time
sports covered, you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it's not there. It's a place to be seen. And man, they've
Hmm.
got, they've got some great teams, right? But, I think you're seeing it right now with the Chargers. Even to a lesser extent the Rams, but certainly the Chargers. When a team comes in there, the opposing team just takes it over. That locally, they got the population. They got the local economy, the corporate sponsors to make some money and all that stuff. But the passion's just it's not there, in my opinion, with LA. But
Hmm.
if you can afford it, great place to live.
Yeah, I've heard good things from a buddy of mine. He likes going to Long Beach every single year, so he praises California like it's like a god, I guess, in other words. But yeah, shifting gears, obviously. I know I told you I wanted to kind of talk about the Patriots. What was your initial reaction? I don't know if you were working or obviously you guys get the news like part away. But what was your initial reaction, I should say, to the Judon being dealt for a third round pick to the Falcons? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I like to think that in local news we're much more in the here's what happened business. We don't
Yeah.
really get to get to offer up an opinion. Sometimes you try to put your undertones in it or whatever. So, it's interesting to, I guess, have a little bit of a platform and offer up an opinion. Didn't like it. A deal should have been done.
Mm-hmm.
He's clearly your best player. He played along with the media. And when I say played along, I mean he was very respectful. He had a good time. He looked people in the eye. He answered basically everything that was asked of him. Which, as a reporter, I've often shared this with people. Like, I don't want to deal with somebody that I'm trying to help out, and they don't want to help me out. So, like, why would I try to subject myself to getting an interview with somebody if they're going to be difficult to deal with?
Yeah.
Or they don't really, want to cooperate or don't like the tone or whatever. Matthew Judon was not one of those people. He was, dare I even say, a media darling, an awesome personality. And it's crazy how radical the difference is with the Patriots. And you get him up there talking about, I got a contract to play, not practice. And even throwing verbatim saying the numbers, like, I don't think I'm worth 6.5. I think I'm worth a lot more than that. Or extremely different than what Bill Belichick would have done. So I just don't like it. I understand why at 32 years old. I think he's soon to be 32 if he's not
Today,
whatever.
actually, to be honest
I was
with
going
you.
to say I know he's going to be 32
Yeah, he
when the
was.
season starts. Yep. I didn't know if his birthday hit yet or not. And I know he's coming off an injury, and that's just an age that unless you're a Hall of Fame player, guys don't get big money contracts, and I understand that. But they went into the offseason with the most cap space in the league. They come out of the offseason with, if they didn't have the most, and I know they were close. I don't have the numbers in front of me. They were really close to it. Had to be hard for him to see all these people getting paid, and he didn't. And he was, maybe he wasn't a captain by title, but he was a de facto captain. If you were in that locker room, you kind of knew Matthew Judon was one of the guys, had one of the presences that ran it. Felt like they should have helped him out. I mean, as a veteran, I believe his contract would have been guaranteed once he made the roster. Of course, he would have made the roster. But yeah, bad look. I don't want to be too critical on the team. Regardless of how many people see this, it's when it's out there forever. But I just feel like financially they're not making the right commitments. It didn't make sense. This is a guy that was a pillar in your program, but said all the right things until recently, right? They would always say, of Belichick and of Drake Maye and of the Kraft family, and I want to be here, whether he meant it or not. He said the right things publicly. Pay the guy. Another reporter, not my information. Obviously not gonna share or steal something that he had, but it apparently from what he gathered, Judon was looking for a lot of money, like a lot of money. Over $20 million a year for 2 or 3 years. The Patriots weren't in a position to do that, but give him a little bit. There had to be a bridge to be met. And another thing, Ken, I would like to add: how many teams in the NFL have their best player? You trade him, and all you get's a third-round pick. That is an indictment. Yeah. That's an indictment for how bad the Patriots are. Their talent just is not there right now.
It's just crazy because you hear from like the sports hub, whatever media, people are loving the trade of just basically like third round pick. Hey, it's good. It's a top, 100 pick next year's draft. Cool. Yeah, great. But you couldn't even got a player, somebody, there's something else you could have got for him. But I mean, obviously he's probably well and happy off to Mercedes-Benz Stadium now in Atlanta, and he's looking for a fresh start. I don't know if he's going to sign a long-term deal, but apparently he's willing to play on the 6.5 million. But go ahead.
I think the number he's probably looking for is like 3 for 50. Probably something in the 30, something close to 30 million guaranteed. It's a lot of money. I wouldn't have done that if I was the Patriots, but I would have given him more money and made him happy. Got him on the field, had him setting an example for my young defense and players I want to develop, and have him getting in front of cameras and saying the right things. And oh, by the way, he's going to help me win games. And I don't want to hear this BS about, well, they need to go 2-15 again and have a top 15 pick. No. A year ago, I keep saying this over and over again anytime I talk about the Patriots. A year ago, the worst roster in the NFL, looked at viewed as the worst team in the NFL at the start of the season, Houston Texans. Figured out the quarterback, Tank Dell, a couple other pieces,
D'Amico Ryans.
All of a sudden they've got, young talent and guys you want to invest in, and they completely turned it around in 1 year. So, why can't, I'm not saying it's going to be the Patriots, but why in the NFL it can change so fast.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously everybody's doubting the Patriots. Like they're 4 or 5 wins. People I talk to, it's like, damn, like I really don't want to see them get 4 or 5 wins and have another 2023 season in 2024. But I get the schedule's a gauntlet for sure. I mean, when you got San Fran in the first 5, 6 weeks, you play Seattle, you start with Cincinnati. It's definitely not going to be an easy task. I mean,
Yeah, I think if hopefully somewhere around that 5, 6, 7, 8 game mark, whatever the plan is with Drake Maye, and there's a growing belief that the plan is for him not to play at all. But if
mhm.
he can play somewhere in the midpoint of the year, take over and look like the man. I think Justin Herbert's rookie year, I want to say they were 6-10, 5-11. It was probably a 16 game season at that point. But clearly, everybody came out of that year knowing that Justin Herbert was the guy. So if they can
Yeah,
do something like that, compete, don't get embarrassed, win. I mean, 4 seems low, but 5, 6, maybe 7
I
games,
know. It
and
still hurts my feelings.
you've clearly identified that this kid can play. Home run, home run on the pick, home run on the season. Now go spend some money and hope that you can continue to draft and develop the picks that they've made that they seem to be high on, but we'll see
Mhm.
if they can play.
I'm glad you brought up May because I don't know if you specifically or everybody else at Seven's been covering training camp. I mean, what's been your reaction or reflection on the past 2, 3 weeks ever since it started, and like before the end of July till August 15th, the second preseason game against the Eagles? Because apparently Tuesday was horrific.
Man,
Well,
that's a great question, and I
it's a
can't
lot.
I really can't get a read on it. All I'll say is it just doesn't make sense. If he's not going to be the starter, that kid's got to play in the preseason. And I'll say this: I'm not down to practice every day, but I'm down there, pretty often. Um, he shines one on ones. Single coverage kind of drills to a receiver is that what that would be? 7-on-7. He looks like a superstar. Absolutely the most talented guy in the field. You see all the tangible stuff, the arm talent. It is 1,000,000% there. But man, when it's 11-on-11 and he's playing with the backups, it doesn't click.
I don't think it's
So
fair.
why is that? I don't know. Is that
Yeah.
a talent thing? I've come around to that idea. I think it's a talent thing. That there's some things in his head, and he has some own pressure inherently that he puts on himself as a competitor, and that one thing leads to another. There's just too much on his plate, and I think he's struggling to process it whenever the bullets are kind of sort of live, as they would be 11-on-11, and they're wearing pads. But whenever they're just asking him to stand there, be an athlete, and use his arm, he is sensation. He is first team all 7-on-7. He's the first guy you want getting off the bus. He fits the bill of what a top tier quarterback should be. Why it's not clicking and why he's not giving more of an opportunity, I don't know. To me, again, just reading into the situation, and maybe this is how they want it to be. This was the plan all along. I do not like the idea that you took a quarterback that high in the draft, and whether it's the plan or not, the optics are that, well, the kid's not ready. Nowadays in the NFL, you draft a quarterback in the first round, not to sit. You draft him to play. I know there's exceptions, but that you draft a kid that high, the clock's ticking. You want to see him get on the field sooner rather than later.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. Obviously, the Bears drafted Caleb Williams. He's going to play. Jaden Daniels, he's probably going to start the season. And then you got May sitting at 3, and it's like, you hear from like the media, it's like he's some sort of project. It's like, all right, maybe he didn't get enough starts at North Carolina, but I still want to see this kid play. And people like, not feed him to the wolves, but let the kid play. Let him go through the struggles of a rookie. Let him learn the offense. Obviously, it's a whole new offense with Alex Van Pelt coming over from Cleveland. He's worked with some guys like Rodgers, Watson, Brissett probably in Cleveland, the brief stint that he had. But I just want to see what the kid can do. But I know before I basically got home, it was basically said on Felger Maz that Albert Bria like tweeted saying like Brissett's going to play the first quarter, May's going to play the second into the third, then Milton's going to play third into the fourth, and then I guess Bailey Zappe is going to finish the game. But it's
Bailey Zappe is an interesting case there too.
he's
Now,
getting the crap end of the stick. I'm sorry to keep
I'm
it
thinking
PG.
maybe, obviously there's going to be some injuries. There always are, even quarterback, which don't get touched in training camp. I mean, Minnesota just lost
JJ,
JJ
yeah.
McCarthy. I know he wasn't the starter, but they're going to need a backup. Bailey Zappi, I believe now has I think a 500 record or really close to it. Let's see, he was I think 2-3 a year ago as a starter, and then the year before that he was 2-0. So he's right around 500, maybe over 500 as a starter. And it looked okay his rookie year. Like, hey, maybe can they fetch a pick for the kid? Because you're not. There's no way they're going to carry 4 quarterbacks, and I
No,
don't. I
that's
don't
way too
know.
much.
Yeah, I don't know if they can get him on to the practice squad. But then again, I mean, they cut the kid last year, and nobody picked him up. I will say this, a career retrospective, and I love sharing this story. It's one of my all time favorites. As I mentioned, I've done some incredible things. I've never in my life, it's going to be my 10th season covering the Patriots. I have never heard Gillette Stadium as loud as it was. And I believe it was October 2022, whenever Bailey Zappe came on and started lighting up the Chicago Bears. Because I
Oh yeah,
thought in that
Monday
moment
night.
I thought that meant that Belichick that was it. It was the kid hit a run. The kid had a hot hand. We kind of went back and forth, but gave Mac a chance. And I thought when he was, I will never forget sitting in the press box and kind of watching it. And I can tell by the way they're warming up who's going in the game. And I was like, oh, they're taking Mac out of because the people booing Mac off the field. And wait till they get a load of this, because they didn't know it yet. And then sure enough, I think they scored 2 touchdowns in about 10 minutes of real time, and the
Yep.
place was unglued. And that was, a lot of people would argue that it was the Patricia thing, the coaching, and they did not give Mac Jones the right environment. They didn't give him enough talent, and he got hurt in that Baltimore game. That was another bad moment. To me, the moment where they were in a lot of trouble was that night. They really, what they did to that kid was not right. It could have been unintended, but there was no way that kid was ever going to forget getting booed by 65,000 people because they wanted to see his backup.
Yeah, for sure. And that's when the Zappy fever started, because I remember it was like
It,
a rainy,
it was
probably
a
windy night.
real
I
thing.
remember that for
It
sure.
was unbelievable. The building was shaking. It was unbelievable. A team that's gone to the Super Bowl since 2001, or is it 10 times? And the
At
place
least,
was
yeah, I think they're what are they, six and
what,
five? I don't even know.
9 or 10 times,
Yeah.
and the place was completely unglued.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, everybody's saying get rid of him. I mean, well, what's he still doing here? He's still auditioning for teams, but I mean, I like the Joe Milton project. I don't know if enough about him besides he can just throw the ball 100 million yards down the field, but I don't know. I mean, Brissett's there to obviously teach these guys, help coach these guys, be there as the starter, as presumably he's gonna be, but I don't know what they're gonna do with Zappy. Maybe trade him, maybe put him on the practice squad, but what do you think would happen with like Joe Milton? Is that I keep saying, is that going to be a Malik Cunningham situation where he's like caught practice squad or he gets picked up by somebody? What's your thoughts on Milton?
Yeah, I think the hope is with Milton they can develop him into a good backup. And the scenario that everybody keeps on pointing to is the Kirk Cousins situation. They drafted Robert Griffin
Oh,
III, who
yep.
was believed to be a generational talent. Second overall, Andrew Luck was phenomenally evaluated coming out. I think he was the highest rated quarterback since John Elway. They still saw enough in Kirk Cousins to think that they can get a really good player there. Drafted him, developed him, needed him when Griffin got hurt, and he won them some games. So I think that's the hope for Milton. But man, he is so raw, so raw. The arm's unbelievable, but touch, intelligence, processing. Those are a very real thing. So we'll have to see if Milton's going to have that.
I mean, it was
If I
impressive.
if I may here, I have a real life problem here. I'll be back. I do apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey kiddo. Hey. Here you go. I have a 5-month-old. And, my wife had to step out, so probably got a couple more minutes. But as we continue,
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, just let me know when you got to end it because I know we're running short on time. No worries.
just a
What was
couple
I
more
saying?
minutes, we'll be good.
Yeah, what was I even saying? Oh, I was talking about Joe Milton. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, were you at the game last week, the first preseason game against the Panthers? I mean, where you just kind of evaded that pressure, and I feel like you ran like 100 yards just for like a first down, where you just came out of the pocket. Were you there for that?
No, I wasn't, but certainly saw it. Crazy. Some of these guys can put up some big numbers against backups, and they could really fly. Malik Cunningham had, what was it, 1 or 2 drives against the Texans, and that was enough for people to be screaming in the middle of the year whenever they couldn't get stable quarterback play. Well, put in the kid. Well, yeah, but there's 90 guys on a training camp roster, and he's
There
playing
is, yeah.
against players that are rated on both sides of the ball between 65 and 90 on their the Madden roster there, if you will, on the attribute category. So it's basically just like college, and the NFL is not college. You only start 46 guys, and it's the best of the best. And kind of going back to that point of how fast things can rebuild in the NFL, it's because of how much talent. Everybody's got talent in the NFL. Another thing I hate by uneducated casual sports fans is, oh, Georgia could beat the Patriots or the Panthers. No.
No.
Georgia's got, in the next 3 years, Georgia's got, 25 guys that are going to get drafted in the NFL. Well, the Panthers have 35 guys out of their 46 that could play for just about any NFL team. So, I think it's a credit to say that, well, maybe Georgia could get a touchdown, 60-7 or something like that. I think that in itself is a compliment, but forget them winning. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy when they compare college to the pros because you can throw for freaking 500 yards in college, run for 300 yards, and when you get to the pros, it tones down a little bit. So it's, much of a different game. But like you said, you got to go. I really appreciate you joining this for sure, Trey. Thank you so much.
Likewise, Ken, man. Best of luck to you. Whatever comes up, man. Let me know in your future.
Hey, I appreciate it, Trey. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Hey, take care, man.
Thank you.